Happy Switch 2 launch. So I was at the midnight release for the Switch 2. I got there, interestingly enough, right before midnight, and they still surprisingly had a bunch of consoles left, so I got a ticket, and I waited outside of that GameStop for about 3 hours. It was a very busy night, and got me a Switch 2. And I am very excited to share my first impressions of the Switch 2 with all of you lovely people today. And yeah, I'm thinking let's just dive right into this. First things first, I notice upon holding the console in my hand is just how premium this thing feels. As much as I love the Switch 1, it kind of feels a bit like a toy. I don't know what the back of this console is made of, but it feels really good. The console has a nice weight to it. The Joy-Cons are a lot bigger. They feel a lot better in my hand, especially when I'm playing handheld for hours on end. So yeah, overall, very impressed by the build quality. It really feels like a premium device. And playing it just makes for a great gaming experience. It's very thin as well. One thing I don't quite like about the Steam Deck is that it's very thick. I like the kickstand. It goes all the way down like the OLED does. And when it closes, it makes that nice Switch-like click. So yeah, there's not much else in the way of changes made to this console. But I guess what we really wanted out of a Switch 2 was honestly just a better Switch that just improves upon the first one and the OLED. And that's exactly what we have here. Beautiful, beautiful console. The screen looks like it's still pretty scratch prone, but I'm pretty careful with my devices, so I'm not worried about that. This feels like a much more sophisticated device, like something Apple would put out. And I really think that's how Nintendo is starting to frame itself. I think they're trying to rebrand themselves as the Apple of gaming. And if that is what they're trying to do, then all the power to them. I think they're making the right moves here. This is a shockingly powerful device as well. For starters, if we're talking about specs, this screen is a 7.9-inch 1080p LCD display with 120 hertz, meaning this can run games up to 120 frames a second. I don't think any games are compatible with such a high frame rate yet, but I'm excited to see what they do with that in the future. This screen also supports HDR10, another fantastic feature that we've been waiting a long time for Nintendo to finally give us. It has 256 gigabytes of in-console storage, which I'm way past that at this point. I was able to download a fair amount of games, but honestly not much. I have not bought one of those micro SD express cards yet because I'm really waiting for like a 512 gigabyte or 1 terabyte or larger micro SD card. So until something like that happens, I kind of just need to deal with the fact that I'm not going to have much games downloaded all at once on this thing. Anyway, so talk a bit more about the specs. The CPU and GPU in this device are actually a custom processor by NVIDIA, just like the first Switch. This console does support 4K when docked, but interesting to note, the console itself actually does not output in native 4K. It's actually outputting in native 2K or 1080, and then NVIDIA's brilliant DLSS AI upscaling upscales the whole image to a beautiful 4K picture that, upon looking at it, was absolutely shocking to me. Honestly, we need to talk about the DLSS for a second because that is easily the selling feature of the Switch 2. Not only are we getting a decently powerful console, but this DLSS upscales it to 4K, and the result is actually astonishing. I have seen a lot of comparison videos between the Switch 2 and the Steam Deck, and the results completely blow me away. Thanks to this DLSS technology, the upscaling of games is so much more sophisticated and results in a much more brilliant image than anything the Steam Deck could even dream of outputting. It's really quite amazing. Anyways, let's stop talking about specs and start talking about some of the wonderful features on this device. First things first, I love the new eShop. I think it is a huge upgrade from the original one. It's so much more organized, and I like that game recommendations thing that they have. Basically, every week, the eShop will give you new gaming recommendations based on what you have already played in the past. It's really cool stuff. I've been playing a lot of Mario Kart World, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do a full review of it quite yet. If you want to see me review Mario Kart World, comment below and let me know. But so far, I am absolutely loving that game, and I'm astonished by how good it looks. The HDR makes the image so much brighter than something like Mario Kart 8. And again, the DLSS upscaling is definitely improving that image. Interestingly enough, and I am very, very thrilled about this, a whole bunch of Switch 1 games are actually getting updated to play on the Switch 2, many of which are featuring updated textures, 60 frames a second, HDR compatibility, and I've been playing through some of those as well, and the results are also fantastic. I will specifically note Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which are finally playable. Ever since that game launched, I've been needing to deal with playing this game at like jaggedy ass frame rates. They said they would fix it, they didn't. But now it's running at a smooth 60 frames a second, no frame drops to be seen whatsoever. It's incredible and such a breath of fresh air. I've never played a truly playable version of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet until now. And of course, the up-resing in that game and others is fantastic as well. Unfortunately for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, they did not fix the insane amount of pop-in and weird texture stuff happening, or any of the weird animations either. So if anything, the 60 FPS bump is very appreciated, but kinda just highlights the game's flaws even more. Not that I should be complaining, it's still a great game, and now it's finally like an actual playable build of the game. But I do wish that for this update, they kind of put in the effort to improve the graphics a little bit, and maybe some of the animations. I totally would have been down to see a Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, like what Nintendo did for Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which look absolutely incredible, by the way. They improve upon the graphics quite a bit, and of course, they are running at 60 FPS and are outputting in 4K. There's no jaggedy lines anymore in the background. It's all a very, very smooth, clear image with improved draw distances. And this is like one of the biggest things I was hoping for with the Switch 2. If they were going to be making a new Switch console, then I really wanted to see them improve upon the games they already have, because there's so many games that have such crazy frame rate issues, and now it looks like these are finally getting fixed. You just need to pay a ton of money and get a Switch 2. Games like Mario Odyssey look so much better on the new hardware. Zelda Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom, which were plagued with frame rate issues, completely smoothed out now. Not a frame to be dropped. It really makes me want to revisit these games. Which is great because the Switch 2 does not have many Switch 2 games right now. All they really have is Mario Kart World from a first-party standpoint, and if you want to go third-party, there is Cyberpunk 2077, which I have not played yet, but eventually I'll get there. Now, as brilliant as some of these games look, I gotta mention some of the games that have not been updated yet desperately need some updating. Especially many of the pseudo first-party games, you know, Xenoblade, the other Pokemon games. To call out Xenoblade especially, those games are struggling on the Switch 2. They look really bad when they're docked. Like, I'm seeing, like, weird ghosting effects, like, textures needing to catch up with itself as I move the camera around. It's very weird stuff. So I really hope Monolith is working on a fix or a Nintendo Switch 2 edition of each Xenoblade game, maybe? That would be cool. Because honestly, I would like to see them update the graphics and make them look more modern. because I do think that these Xenoblade games, as wonderful as they are, they do look kind of dated. Pokemon Legends Arceus is another example of a game that really needs a big update for the Switch 2 to run it properly. Again, it's very similar issues to what I was seeing with the Xenoblade games. Just a weird ghosting effect and textures catching up in a sense. So yeah, there are many games that still need to be updated, but the Switch 1 games that are already taking advantage of the Switch 2 hardware through updates look fantastic. One game that I will say does run pretty well despite having no Switch 2 update for it would be Mario RPG. That game already runs at a pretty smooth 60 FPS, but I would like to see them do a Switch 2 update for that game as well. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate also looks pretty good on the Switch 2 despite not having a Switch 2 update. Animal Crossing looks okay. But yeah, graphically speaking, this addition of HDR, this DLSS upscaling, it really makes a world of difference. And of course, NVIDIA's custom CPU, GPU processor. But another big thing with the Switch 1 games running on Switch 2 hardware is much faster loading times as well. Very appreciated. It's also important to note that not only are Switch 1 games compatible with the Switch 2, but Switch 1 accessories are also compatible with this, meaning you can use your Switch 1 Pro controller if you wanted to, you can use your Switch 1 Joy-Cons. So really cool that those are also allowed to be used in this new generation of Nintendo hardware. The UI on the Switch 2 is very similar to the Switch 1, which is okay, I guess. I kind of wish they did something bolder with it. I miss the days of like the Wii and the DS and the Wii U that had really like fun interactive user interfaces and menus. This one is pretty basic. It's the same squares for each game sort of thing. I mean, I guess it's slightly tweaked in the sense that there is like a nice sort of light blue, pink, white kind of outline going around your selection on the Switch 2. Nintendo really said trans rights, didn't they? Happy Pride! And when you go to the bar underneath with the Nintendo Switch Online and the news and the game chat, the album, the settings, what have you, each icon you press does have a cute little sound. Like, here, I'll play one for you right now. Isn't that cute? Like, that was not on the original Switch. They do have those fun, cute little details in the user interface on the Switch 2 as well, but it's not as fleshed out as it was in the Wii U or the Wii or even the GameCube. I have not tried Game Chat yet, but I'm hoping I will be able to soon because it does look like a pretty cool feature. I have not bought the camera yet, but the Switch 2 device itself does come with a built-in microphone, another much appreciated feature, and a headphone jack. I also love the new connectivity features between the Switch 2 and the Nintendo Switch Online app. I'm so glad they got rid of the voice feature on the app itself. I thought that was dumb from day one. And instead, it's kind of like additional features of some games, especially Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which now with the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, have some cool new features on the app itself. Do I see myself using those features for those specific games much? No, but it's appreciated, and I'm glad that they're going a different route with this app to really make the Switch 2 and the app feel connected in a different way that isn't as lame. I also did try playing GameCube games on the Switch, and they look fantastic. Again, that DLSS upscaling never fails to impress me. And it looks like Nintendo is slowly going to be updating some of their Switch 1 games to play properly on Switch 2 hardware with added benefits. For example, they just recently did an update for Splatoon 3. So now that game runs at a smooth 60 FPS with a sharper image quality as a whole, outputting in 4K. When docked at least, it'll be 1080p on the handheld itself. The battery life on the Switch 2 so far has not been terrible, but I haven't really been like out and about playing the console for long periods of time. Like I haven't been on like a long flight and playing on the Switch 2 yet, but I have a feeling that really short battery life is going to be frustrating in moments like that. So I guess that's kind of a downfall of the device, but the charging does work surprisingly fast. So that's a plus. You can just plug it in, and This is really interesting. And Apple, I think, needs to take notes for their MacBooks because they don't have this feature yet. They have it on the phones to an extent. But what Nintendo decided to do is add a feature that caps the charging at 90% to help preserve the battery health, which is really useful for the longevity of the device. That's another really cool feature right there. And of course, I love the new Joy-Cons. I love how they kind of just disconnect and connect through a magnet. It's very strong and it works beautifully and really, really helps give it that premium feel. I haven't really played many games that use the mouse feature yet, but that's another cool feature that I think is going to really come in handy when games like Metroid Prime 4 come out. So there are so many cool new features on the Switch 2, and it looks like the console is just powerful enough to last a generation of consoles. I am a little worried for when the PlayStation 6 and whatever Xbox comes out with does end up coming out, but I think Nintendo will be able to catch up just fine. Overall, my first impressions of this console, I love it. I 100% think it's worth it. I know it's extremely expensive, but I think the benefits of this console, the fact that you can play Switch 1 games in much better resolution, better image quality, better frame rates, and of course it unlocks a whole new generation of new games as well, makes this very, very worth it. And it looks like a lot of people agree because the console did sell 3.5 million units in its first 4 days, making it not only the fastest selling Nintendo console of all time, but the fastest selling console in general of all time, which is a really cool achievement. Bravo, Nintendo. But yeah, I gotta give this console my fullest recommendation. I cannot recommend it enough. If you're willing to shell out the 400 or 450 US dollars, I live in Canada, I paid almost 800 bucks for this thing with the tax included. But again, it is a pretty powerful device. It's not as powerful as like a PS5 or something, but the features that it does have, especially for a handheld device, are pretty revolutionary. You will not be able to find any other handheld device that can make games look as good as they do on the Switch 2. You will definitely not find that on the Steam Deck, that's for sure. I think it's a beautiful console, and this new generation of Nintendo is starting to sound really promising. Admittedly, I was not that hyped about the Switch 2 until I was literally in that line waiting to pick up a Switch 2. At that point, I was really getting that vibe like, okay, this is happening, you know, new Nintendo console and new generation of Nintendo. And that's when I really started getting excited, which is probably for the best because that means that I just wasn't really obsessing over the Switch 2 launch over the past few months as so many people were. I was pretty low-key about it, and I'm glad that I was. But yeah, now that it's out, I'm happy to say that yes, this is definitely a console to be hyped up about. I am so excited for all the treasured gaming memories that will be made playing on the Switch 2. But anyways, those are my first impressions of the Switch 2. I hope I'll be able to cover so much more Switch 2 and gaming stuff in the future. I would love to hear your thoughts as well. Have you picked up a Switch 2 yet? What did you think of it? Comment below. Let me know. If you like this video, you can go ahead and give it a like. If you like me, you can subscribe. And I will see you next time. Bye!